The savannah stretches endlessly under a scorching sun. Dust rises in ghostly swirls over the cracked earth. The rain whispers on the horizon. The flocks feel the change. They move like living rivers. Meanwhile, predators track, stalk, and wait. This is the story of the many survival trails in the savannah. The journey will soon take us to the Mara River. Here, thousands of hooves will hit the water, and beneath the surface, crocodiles lurk patiently. Serengeti plains shimmer under a sun bleached by months of drought. Dust rises in ghostly swirls from the feet of countless hooves, floating in lazy eddies over the dry grass. The herds have been moving north for weeks. The wildebeest, with their mottled brown fur, move in waves. They must do so if they want to survive. Mothers push their young forward, scanning the horizon with open eyes, muscles tense beneath their skin. The young stagger and rise, learning the rhythm of migration step by step. These young are part of the same birthing season, emerging almost together. The Mara River waits like a line drawn through the world. A limit, a test, a threat. Its waters have swelled with the northern rains, fed by tributaries that crisscross the Kenyan highlands. Deep channels snake between rocks and fallen trees, and the surface is a ripple of shifting shadows. Beneath them lie crocodiles. Still, perfectly camouflaged. The Nile crocodile, Crocodilus niloticus, is an ancient predator with an armor of scales that overlap like shields. Its snout emerges just long enough to breathe and observe. The crocodile senses the vibrations of the river, silent, patient, expecting. The first wildebeests cautiously wade into the shallows, their hooves crunching in the sediment. The water is knee-deep, the current is gentle on the shore. They sniff the air, their nostrils flaring. The calves cling to their mothers. The slightest misstep could mean death. The mothers push, circle, and push again, forming a protective perimeter. From below, a shadow moves imperceptibly. A crocodile, its body almost completely submerged, senses the first movement. Its tail moves beneath the muddy water. He's been here for days, lurking. The crocodile has hunted in this stretch of the Mara for years, recognizing patterns, the rhythm of the herds, and the weakest points of river crossings. The crossing intensifies as more animals approach. Their hooves slap the water, creating a constant roar of splashes. The powder is mixed with the sprayed water. Mothers crowd their young toward the center, forming living shields. The herd stretches and compresses, with hundreds of bodies squeezing together. The young stay in the center of the line, while the older, stronger adults occupy the ends. And then, as always, comes the strike, a sudden surge of water. The jet rises like an explosion. The first calf disappears beneath the surface, dragged into the jaws of a crocodile waiting for just that moment. The mothers moo and writhe, their hooves pounding, the water churning around them. Instant panic spreads through the pod. Some escape to the other shore, trembling but alive. Others are not so lucky. The limbs twitch, the hooves shake. A second, a third, sometimes more, disappear as teeth clench and muscles tense. The river is alive and violent. Not all deaths are instantaneous. Some young are partially dragged under, their bodies freed only to be trapped again. Crocodiles sometimes struggle for minutes with larger adults, dragging them into deeper water. And yet even in death, life goes on. The bodies that are not completely consumed are dragged downstream. The fish tear at the exposed flesh. Vultures circle above. Insects feast on the remains. Mothers do everything they can. Those in the middle of the crossing protect the calves by passing over or around them. Their hooves pound the water like drum rolls, sending shockwaves through the riverbed, warning the crocodiles of their strength. Some mothers position themselves so their young can jump onto solid sand or submerged rocks. Calves follow instinct, learning to dodge, to run, feeling danger in ways they will use for the rest of their lives. But even the most caring mothers can't protect everyone. Some losses are inevitable. The crossing isn't a one-time event. For large herds, the river must be negotiated in waves over several hours, sometimes half a day. Each wave brings new individuals, new fear, and new danger. The older, more experienced members lead the way. Calves watch and learn, often imitating the steps of their elders. Crocodiles expect this pattern. They often hide in deeper holes where the water flows more slowly, conserving energy for long waits. Sometimes they patrol the banks, snapping at stragglers, testing the water. Not all attempts are successful. Many blows miss. The calves twitch. Hooves collide with snouts. Water masks movement. Success depends on time, patience, and strength. But a single well-placed blow can cost someone their life. The river stretches wide before them. The brown water churns over rocks and debris. The mother stops. Her calf hesitates, its legs trembling. They must cross the barrier. She pushes her calf forward. It treads carefully, digging its hooves into the riverbed. The water reaches up to his knees. The current pushes. The calf staggers and calls softly. The mothers around her push and twist, forming a living shield. The calf is the center. Then it happens again. A jet of water. A flash of teeth. The first blow. The mothers scream, the hooves pound, the water churns, forming foam and mud. The river erupts in chaos. The crocodile drags its prey beneath the surface, whipping its tail wildly and snapping its jaws. The pod moves forward at full speed. The mother turns, pushing her young away from the deeper pools. She keeps him close, pushing the young man behind her body. The calf stumbles, slips, but she's there, pressing against it, mooing softly. Minutes turn into hours. Waves of wildebeest cross in succession. The mothers rotate the calves to safer positions, sensing the shifting currents and the shadows that loom over them. The water hisses over the submerged rocks. Some calves collapse from exhaustion, others limp. Each crossing is different. The mother only slows down when the water recedes. She pushes the calf toward dry land. The other bank rises abruptly, a barrier of mud and weeds. The calf leaps, scraping with its hooves, freeing itself from the river's grasp. She pushes it forward. The crocodiles retreat to waiting positions, patience for the next wave. Above, vultures circle. Jackals prowl near the banks, sniffing for remains. The mother moves on, with the calf safely behind. The Mara has taken some toll, but the living continue on. Thunder rumbles in the north. Rain falls on the distant hills. Fresh grass awaits beyond the river, yet every step is measured, every glance counts. In the shadow of danger, the mother guides her young. The river lies behind them, now silent. The crocodiles return to their ambushes. Soon a new morning will dawn over Mara. At dawn, the crocodiles lie half submerged, their eyes and nostrils barely above the surface. They are still motionless, but not inactive. A huge male stretches out on a sun-warmed sandbank, his jaws wide open, his muscles ripple beneath his armored scales. Heat stimulates digestion. Smaller crocodiles circulate in shallow water, gliding silently between submerged rocks, testing the currents and sensing vibrations. They patrol in measured arcs. Some simply move, repositioning, asserting their dominance. Larger males occupy preferred ambush areas. The juveniles remain on the margins. A subadult slides under a log, its eyes following the shifting shadows on the riverbed. As the sun rises, they sink underwater, their bodies coiled, conserving energy. Periodically, a tail twitches, creating ripples on the surface, barely disturbing the reflection of the sky. They float, breathing slowly, alert but conserving strength. From time to time, they raise their heads and flare their nostrils. When the wildebeest arrive, when the river erupts in chaos, they attack. Until then, they wait. At dusk, some return to bask in the sun. Mud covers their sides, cooling them off from the heat of the sun, while others slide back into the pools, almost invisible under the floating leaves. The Mara is theirs. As the last wave reaches the other shore, the river calms again. The survivors gasp and shiver, mud and water coating their skin. The calves cling to their mother's sides, their ears twitching at every sound. The herd slowly spreads across the plains. Mothers are vigilant, keeping their young away from the banks. On average, hundreds of wildebeest die on each journey. The calves are the most vulnerable, while adults occasionally fall due to poor judgment or exhaustion. However, the herd survives thanks to its numbers, its instinct, and the careful strategy of the mothers. Crocodiles, despite their power, rarely achieve majority. They depend on the size of the pack, the chaos, and their own patience. The river also nourishes the broader ecosystem. Carcasses not eaten by crocodiles feed scavengers, from vultures to jackals, while fish feed on the remains. Nutrients seep into the soil and floodplain, feeding the grasses that will sustain the next wave of migration. Meanwhile, the herd continues to advance. Across the Mara, the survivors are finally grazing. The grass is lush. The calves, those who survived, huddle with their mothers and collapse from exhaustion. For a few weeks, peace reigns. The herds spread out, eating and resting under the immensity of the sky. But danger also lurks in this abundant land. Lions patrol the hills. Cheetahs lurk on the margins. Hyenas move through the grass at night. Mother and calf stay together. She has lost half her strength on the journey, but the calf is growing. Every morning, as the valley mists dissipate, they feed together. The calf learns to recognize the signs of danger. High above, the seasons begin to change. The skies are clear. The sun reclaims the plains. The rivers are shrinking. The green begins to fade once again. The air is filled with dust. The great herds are once again stirring restlessly. Soon they'll be heading back south, retracing their path through the Serengeti. The journey never truly ends. It only changes with the wind and rain. For the crocodiles, it means waiting once more beneath the dark waters. For the mother wildebeest, it's another test. The plains fall silent in the midday sun. The bones bleach in the grass. But beyond them, 1,000,000 helmets raise dust. The wildebeest will return, and when they do, the river will rise. At the northeast end of the Mara Serengeti, a similar episode is unfolding. Rains come suddenly to South Sudan. The first drops fall like drum rolls on the cracked earth. In a matter of days, the sod is transformed. Grasslands disappear under floodwaters, replaced by floating meadows that glow at dawn. The cob white-eared, Cobus cob leucotis, begin to move. They originate from the rolling grasslands of Boma National Park in South Sudan. Slender and elegant, the cob. The white-eared wolf is made for these endless plains. Males measure almost 1 meter at the withers and weigh up to 90 kilograms. The rich chestnut coats shine as the sun breaks through the storm clouds. A pale patch surrounds each eye and behind the ears. These distinctive white markings give them their name. They shine against the red earth and green of the floodplain. Their long, lyre-shaped horns curve upward in elegant whirls. Females lack horns and move more gracefully and quickly. They look after the calves that stagger at their heels. Gambella National Parks, the herd travels up to 800 kilometers or more each year, depending on rainfall. Their route winds through the Sud wetlands, a vast inland delta that expands and contracts with the seasons. In the dry months, kobe gather in the short grass of Boma. These are the feeding and birthing areas. With the first rains, they begin to move, north then east. They follow the migration corridor of the Sobat River, where floodwaters filter through papyrus and reeds. At the heart of the herd is the dominant male. His neck is full of muscles. His horns are blackened by mud and age. It's not just the strongest, but the most lasting thing. He earned his place in the fierce lek battles that mark the onset of the rains. On the open plains of Boma, males gather in display grounds, clashing violently, while the air resonates with the crackle of horn against horn. The victors claim small territories. Now, as the herds move north, those hierarchies are dissolving. The migration brings them to a world of changing colors and sounds. The floodplain breathes and moves. Channels snake like veins through the grass. Cobs wade through waist-deep water, heads held high, their coats darkening with each crossing. Beneath them, the shallow waters teem with life. Catfish, lungfish, tilapia, all removed from the mud by the pounding of 1,000 hooves. Around him, the air hums with the wings. Cattle egrets, open-billed storks, black-crowned cranes. They all feed on insects disturbed by migration. Every day begins with stillness. Cobs graze in the dawn light, flicking their ears to shoo away clouds of flies and swishing their tails in the drizzle. Mothers keep their young close, nudging them forward. They graze, they rest, they wade, they move again. The young, just a few weeks old, can run within minutes of birth. Its coat is softer, lighter, and blends with the gold of the grass. Beyond the herd boundary, movement can be heard in the higher elevations. Slender, long-legged, painted with gold, black and white mottling, The African wild dogs, Lycaon pictus, have returned. Each bears the marks of survival: torn ears, old scars, ribs visible beneath the skin. They are among the most efficient predators in the area. They often kill by running their prey to exhaustion over miles of open plain. His senses are sharp. Their coordination is mute. When hunting, they move as one. The migration from Boma to Gambella is their season of plenty. After months of scarcity, the floodplains now teem with cobs, tiang, and reedbucks. The dogs know these routes. They shadow the herds, tracking them from the dry ridges where the mud doesn't trap their paws. The alpha pair leads. Behind them, yearlings run silently through the reeds. The youngest, the previous year's cubs, follow at a distance. They travel guided by smell and hearing. When the wind blows from the south, it carries with it the scent of thousands of cobs. The dogs stop and twitch their noses. The alpha female turns her head, scanning the horizon. She pricks her ears. A silent gaze sweeps over the pack. They fan out, forming a wide crescent in front of the pack. No bark, no growl, no command. The cobs remain oblivious. The rain falls in the form of a fine mist. The dominant male raises his head. His horns reflect the dim light. Around him, the herd grazes and calves occasionally jump in play. Danger, when it comes, arrives without warning. The dogs emerge from the thicket, paddling in the shallow water. The cobs scatter in panic, their hooves kicking up layers of mud and splashes. Mothers call to their young. The dominant male turns, leading his harem away from the chaos, his horns lowered, ready to defend himself. But the dogs waste no time on him. A young cob flounders in deeper water. She struggles, digging her paws into the mud. Two dogs break formation and describe a wide circle, cutting off his retreat. Others flank her, pushing her into the shallow water where escape is impossible. The pack's timing is perfect. One leaps, gripping a hind leg with its jaws. Another grabs her throat. It's all over in seconds. The rest of the pack flees through the flooded grass. The calves stumble. The mothers push them and lift them forward. The dominant male rears up, snorting and cornering the stragglers. For the moment, the danger is over. At the slaughter site, the dogs feed quickly. They tear and swallow, passing pieces to the younger members of the pack. Within minutes, the bones gleam pale in the rain. The floodwaters begin to rise, carrying away what's left. Dogs don't stay long. They fade away into the grass. High above, marabou storks circle, descending on their heavy wings. They land awkwardly in shallow water, digging their long beaks into the debris. Ospreys squawk from the treetops. Next come the vultures, hundreds of them spiraling down from unseen heights. Within minutes, the carcass disappears beneath the wings and beak. As dusk falls, the cobs regroup on higher ground, shivering but alive. The dominant male stands at the edge of the herd, water dripping from his flanks. His nostrils flare, sniffing the wind. The rain softens, turning into mist, and the floodplain glistens in the setting sun. The herd settles around it. The calves press against their mothers. Ahead lies Gambella National Park, across the border from Ethiopia, where the grass will grow lush and the air will buzz with insects. There, for a time, the herds will rest, feed and calve before returning south for the next dry season. This is the largest antelope migration on the continent. An estimated 5 million white-eared cobs move through one of the least disturbed wetlands on Earth, yet few witness it. The sod's isolation protects it, but also hides its harshness. The floodplain is both a refuge and a danger. Water offers safety from lions and hyenas. It also brings exhaustion, illness, and drowning. Cobs are perfectly adapted to this challenge. Their fur repels water. Their hooves splay for greater traction in the mud. They can swim when necessary. The young cling to their mother's sides, finding small islands of dry land to rest on. Wild dogs know it too. Every day they test the packs with short chases designed to disperse them, separate them, and find weak spots. Not all chases end in death. Often the cobs survive, hopping through reeds and water until the pack's stamina is exhausted. Then both predator and prey retire to rest. Gambella grasslands, males battle each other in shallow pools, clashing their horns in ritual displays that resonate across the plain. The dominant male joins the fray, driving off rivals with loud blows. His dominance must be demonstrated again and again. Nearby, wild dogs return. They have followed the herds throughout the season. The young have grown, now stronger and hungrier. The herd hunts at dawn when the mist blurs the edges of the world. They chase a group of cobs across open fields, leading them toward a row of flooded reeds. The chase lasts for almost 2 kilometers. Cobs are fast, but here in the waterlogged grass, their advantage vanishes. One slips, falls, gets up again, only to be caught. The kill is swift and clean. Around them, the floodplain remains indifferent. The rest of the herd has already left in search of new pasture. Mid-season, migration reaches its peak. Millions of cobs cover the horizon. The young born weeks ago now run confidently alongside their mothers. The dominant male stands on a rise of red earth, his fur gleaming in the sunlight. Around him, frogs croak, birds sing, and insects swarm. It's an abundance on a scale that few places can match. But even abundance has limits. As the rains fade, the floodwaters begin their slow retreat. The puddles shrink, exposing the cracked earth once again. Fish die in the shallows, feeding the crocodiles that return with the dry season. Diseases spread among the herds. The weak begin to be left behind. For wild dogs, the end of the rainy season brings its own challenge. The prey dwindles, dispersing toward the drier confines of the plain. The herd must travel farther, hunt harder. They lose one of their young in a failed chase. A broken leg is a death sentence. The cobs return south. As the last clouds disperse, the sod begins to dry again. In the darkness, a wild dog raises its head and croaks, a long, rising call that fades into silence. The cobs perk up their ears but don't move. They've survived another season, another crossing. Soon the waters will recede and the grass will turn pale. The migration will begin again. Cobs range. A similar saga is unfolding. This is the Kalahari ecosystem in Botswana. Chobe River in the north and Ngsaipan National Park in the interior. This is Africa's longest land migration, 500 kilometers. It all starts in March. The earth is silent under the sun. The heat shines on the cracked bed of the Boteti River. What was once a vital source of water has now been reduced to dust. For months, zebras, Equus quaggaboemi, have grazed on the floodplains near Chobe. Here, the Okavango floods briefly painted the land green. But that time has passed. The grass has turned yellow, the pans have dried out. Thirst is beginning to put pressure on the herds. They've done it before, year after year, generation after generation. The zebras of northern Botswana all follow the same path. At the front walks the lead mare. Her coat, once pale silver, is now dulled by the grit of so many days. Her mane sticks to her neck, streaked with a white crust of salt. The muscles in her flanks tense with each stride. For nearly 2 weeks he led his herd across the arid desert. The pack trusts her implicitly, mirroring her every step, every pause. The foals stumble after her, their thin legs trembling. Their mothers urge them forward. Dust floats low over the herd, enveloping them with the scent of dry earth and sweat. The journey is relentless, dawn after dawn of movement. They walk mostly at the edge of the day. At noon, the heat becomes unbearable. The air itself seems to shimmer and curve, warping the distant horizon into false rivers and ghostly trees. Zebras huddle together under the scant shade of acacia and hawthorn trees, flapping their flanks and swishing their tails to ward off lingering flies. His nostrils flare with the smell of dust and distant rain. The calves lean against their mother's flanks, sheltering from the sun, the silence and the uncertainty of the land that awaits them. The desert is merciless. They have gone days without tasting fresh water. Their tongues scrape dryly against their parched lips. Her skin shines with salt. Still they move. You are not alone on this journey. Far behind, moving like ghosts across the plains, travels another family, the lions. Thin and belly-sunken from weeks without a suitable kill, the pride numbers 6 lionesses, 2 experienced lionesses, 3 nearly adult cubs with dusty fur, and a dark-maned male whose ribs poke through his fur. They have been following the herd's trail for 2 days. Lions know these migrations. They know when thirst drives the herds to drink water, and they know where that water is. Mid-season, migration reaches its peak. Millions of cobs cover the horizon. The young born weeks ago now run confidently alongside their mothers. The dominant male stands on a rise of red earth, his fur gleaming in the sunlight. Around him, frogs croak, birds sing, and insects swarm. It's an abundance on a scale that few places can match, but even abundance has limits. As the rains fade, the floodwaters begin their slow retreat. The puddles shrink, exposing the cracked earth once again. Fish die in the shallows, feeding the crocodiles that return with the dry season. Diseases spread among the herds. The weak begin to be left behind. For wild dogs, the end of the rainy season brings its own challenge. The prey dwindles, dispersing toward the drier confines of the plain. The herd must travel farther, hunt harder. They lose one of their young in a failed chase. A broken leg is a death sentence. The cobs return south. As the last clouds disperse, the sod begins to dry again. In the darkness, a wild dog raises its head and croaks, a long rising call that fades into silence. The cobs perk up their ears but don't move. They've survived another season, another crossing. Soon the waters will recede and the grass will turn pale. The migration will begin again. Cobs range, a similar saga is unfolding. This is the Kalahari ecosystem in Botswana, Chobe River in the north and Nxai Pan National Park in the interior. This is Africa's longest land migration, 500 kilometers. It all starts in March. The earth is silent under the sun. The heat shines on the cracked bed of the Boteti River. What was once a vital source of water has now been reduced to dust. For months, zebras, Equus quagga buemi, have grazed on the floodplains near Chobe. Here, the Okavango floods briefly painted the land green. But that time has passed. The grass has turned yellow, the pans have dried out. Thirst is beginning to put pressure on the herds. They've done it before, year after year, generation after generation. The zebras of northern Botswana all follow the same path. At the front walks the lead mare. Her coat, once pale silver, is now dulled by the grit of so many days. Her mane sticks to her neck, streaked with a white crust of salt. The muscles in her flanks tense with each stride. For nearly 2 weeks he led his herd across the arid desert. The pack trusts her implicitly, mirroring her every step, every pause. The foals stumble after her, their thin legs trembling. Their mothers urge them forward. Dust floats low over the herd, enveloping them with the scent of dry earth and sweat. The journey is relentless, dawn after dawn of movement. They walk mostly at the edge of the day. At noon, the heat becomes unbearable. The air itself seems to shimmer and curve, warping the distant horizon into false rivers and ghostly trees. Zebras huddle together under the scant shade of acacia and hawthorn trees, flapping their flanks and swishing their tails to ward off lingering flies. His nostrils flare with the smell of dust and distant rain. The calves lean against their mother's flanks, sheltering from the sun, the silence, and the uncertainty of the land that awaits them. The desert is merciless. They have gone days without tasting fresh water. Their tongues scrape dryly against their parched lips. Her skin shines with salt. Still, they move. You are not alone on this journey. Far behind, moving like ghosts across the plains, travels another family, the lions. Thin and belly-sunken from weeks without a suitable kill, the pride numbers 6 lionesses, 2 experienced lionesses, 3 nearly adult cubs with dusty fur, and a dark-maned male whose ribs poke through his fur. They have been following the herd's trail for 2 days. Lions know these migrations. They know when thirst drives the herds to drink water, and they know where that water is. Boteti River is a sliver of life fading into memory as the months of drought intensify. What remains now are only pools trapped in the river's deepest bends, where hippos once wallowed and crocodiles now lie buried in the mud. All life converges around these isolated watering holes. On the 5th day, the zebras reach the limit. The led mare stops, nostrils flaring. The smell of water hangs in the air. She moves forward cautiously, digging her hooves into the damp clay. The surface glistens faintly. Behind her, the herd swirls silently. The ground here is full of footprints, hoof marks, paw prints, deep grooves where claws have raked the ground. The mare feels it. She hesitates. The foals bleat softly. The air feels thick. In the tall grass near the water, golden eyes watch. The pack, Panthera leo, remains motionless. Their fur blends into the color of the earth, a sun-bleached gold against the brittle grass. For hours they have waited, conserving energy. Hunger gnaws at them, but timing is everything. They have gone almost 2 weeks without eating meat. Mopane forest left them limping and tired. The younger cubs cry softly in the heat. The male, with his dark mane and scars, rests under a patch of shade, flicking his tail to swat away flies. He does not lead the hunt. That burden falls on the lionesses. The herd's thirst will soon overcome their caution. The zebras advance in small groups. The lead mare lowers her head, nostrils touching the surface, taking her first drink of water in days. The herd follows, stirring the mud with their hooves. The foals crowd around the adults, protected on all sides. For a moment, only the sound of water can be heard. Then, from the grass, the silence is broken. A whisper, a tail flicker. A lioness emerges from her hiding place, followed instantly by another. The world explodes into chaos. Hooves thunder, water splashes, screams echo in the dry air. Dust explodes upward, blinding, suffocating, obscuring the moving silhouettes. The led mare turns, baring her teeth, leading the foals away from the commotion. The pride moves with relentless precision. The first lioness pushes the pride to one side, the second attacks from the flank. The young zebras stumble, scattered in panic. One falls after tripping over a hidden root. The lioness catches up with her in seconds. The slaughter is swift. The rest of the pack runs. They don't stop until the whisper of the boteti fades behind them. At the watering hole, the lions are eating quickly. The dark-maned male steps forward, pushing his way through the pride with a deep guttural growl. His bristling, thick, dusty mane frames eyes that burn with warning. The lionesses take a step back. Hunger eats away at them all, but the hierarchy remains firm. He feeds first. His strength lies in his survival, his presence, the shield that keeps other males at bay. Just a few weeks ago, he battled a rival sneaking up from the west, a young lion lured by the scent of females and the promise of dominance. The battle had been brutal, claws raking, roars that split the dawn. He still bears the scars. Now he eats to recover what the battle took from him. His jaws work methodically, tearing at muscle and tendon. Blood trickles down his snout, glistening in the bright light. Around him, the lionesses wait, panting, their eyes fixed on the carcass. Their cubs snuggle close to their mothers' bellies, meowing softly with impatience. When the male has had his fill, he retreats with a low growl, taking refuge in the shade of a hawthorn bush. There he collapses on his side, his belly swollen and his tongue hanging out as flies swarm over his mane. Only then do the lionesses approach, finding the places he left behind with their teeth. Puppies also crawl forward. They burrow into the ribcage, pulling at the remains, their small grunts evoking the rhythm of coming adulthood. The air vibrates with the dull chorus of food, the moist tearing of flesh, the crunch of bone. Flies buzz over the remains. Above, vultures circle ever closer. The lionesses feed until the heat overwhelms them, until their breaths are shallow and their bellies are heavy. The carcass lies dismembered, its ribs white and gleaming in the sun. As night falls, the lions retreat into the darkness, their bellies full for the first time in weeks. Hyenas call from afar. The scavengers continue their work until dawn. In the morning, only bones remain, and the herd moves on. Through thorny scrub and salt mares, amid mirages and heat, the led mare maintains a steady pace. Each step brings them closer to Nchai Pan, where the first rains will fall and the land will glow green. The days are getting much longer. Heat radiates from the salt crusts of the Makgadikgadi. Now the herd travels at night. Here, survival depends on adaptation. Zebras conserve water by feeding during the cool hours and remaining motionless at midday. Their striped coats, which once protected them from biting flies, now shine with sweat and salt. Mothers push their young to keep them moving. The unity of the flock is its strength. Still, predators are still close. Lions don't venture far into the marshes, but other threats lurk. Hyenas patrol the edges, attracted by scent and chance. They are opportunistic and feed on exhaustion. As night falls, their laughter echoes across the plains. The days go by. It's night again. The herd stops at a dry hollow, a remnant of last season's pond. The foals rest, their heads resting against their mother's flanks. The led mare keeps watch, twitching her ears at every sound. In the distance, a rumble, thunder, the promise of rain. She lifts her head toward her, nostrils flaring, tasting the wind. It's to the south. On the 10th day, the first rains touch the horizon. The scent of petrichor spreads across the salt marshes. The herd hurries on. The ground, hard and lifeless for months, begins to soften. The first green shoots emerge from the cracks in the clay. But the final stretch is the most difficult. The herd must cross a long, open basin where there is no cover. Without water, without shadow, the sun returns. The calves are faltering. One collapses and cannot get up. But the pack moves on. Not everyone will survive this journey. The migration takes its toll every year. Disease, fatigue, and predators take their toll. But for those who endure, the reward lies ahead. Nyai Pan. At dawn on the 12th day, they see him. The horizon darkens with clouds, and below a green flash. The rain falls in silver sheets, sweeping across the plains. The herd breaks into a trot, then a gallop. The foals stamp, the mothers bray, and the sound of life fills the air. When they arrive, Nyai Pan is transformed. The salt crust has turned to grass, tender and moist. In the shallow basins, pools teeming with frogs and dragonflies form. The pack drinks deeply. For the first time in weeks, they can rest. Nearby, lions still keep watch, but here they hunt differently. The abundance of prey expands opportunities. Springbok, oryx, and wildebeest graze in the same open space. The herd no longer needs to stalk the herds at every turn. They too are rebuilding after the hunger of the dry season. The lead mare grazes silently. Around them, foals play, chasing each other through the puddles. But the migration is not over. In a few months, when the grass begins to wither and the puddles dry up again, the zebra will head north again. It will retrace its steps through the dust and drought. For now, however, it rests. The lead mare lowers its head to drink. In the distance, a lion raises its head from the grass. His eyes follow the zebra, but his belly is full. Meanwhile, the nearby Okavango Delta begins to fade. For months now, it has been a vast and shimmering labyrinth of lagoons and reed beds, fed by rains falling 1,000 kilometers away in Angola. But now the water is receding and sinking back into the thirsty sand of the Kalahari. Dry channels until they become cracked mud. The lilies fold. The air is filled with the smell of dust and heat. At the heart of this change is a matriarch, broad, intelligent, marked by years of drought and floods. His memory contains the map of survival. She has walked this path many times. The route is almost 250 kilometers. The heat is relentless, but she knows there is no choice. The delta will soon be empty. Behind her, the pack gathers, daughters, sisters, calves, 25 elephants, Loxodonta africana in total. Their ears move slowly, stirring the warm air. The young elephants cuddle up against their mother's flanks, sheltered from the sun and wind. Dust clings to their skin like powder, dulling the grey of their fur. With a thud, the matriarch gives a signal. The column begins to move. Elephants travel mainly at night. Their feet fall silently on the sand. During the day, they rest under the acacia trees, breaking off branches to feed and sprinkling dust to cool their skin. Their trunks are always probing, searching, reading the air for water or danger. They come from the floodplains of the delta, where once papyrus rustled and ospreys cried over gleaming canals. Now they cross the dry forests of the Kalahari. Termite mounds rise like monuments on the horizon. Hornbills squawk from the thorn bushes. The smell of dryness permeates everything. The elephants continue on, following the matriarch. Along the way lies the story of another life and another death. A few kilometers further on, in a forest of mopane trees, lies the carcass of an old bull. It fell weeks ago, perhaps from exhaustion, perhaps from the silent weariness of age. Its tusks gleam pale against the earth. Around it, the land bustles with activity. Above, white-backed vultures spiral in the heat. They descend in waves, landing in a frenzy of wing beats and squawks. Their beaks tear through the thick fur. Soon, the air is alive with movement. Storks, eagles, and kites join the feast. The male's death has attracted a host of scavengers from miles away. At dusk, the hyenas arrive. At first, they move cautiously, wary of vultures. Then a bold female approaches, her snout wrinkled and jaws so powerful they could break bones. In moments, the afternoon silence is filled with noise. The cracking of ribs, the tearing of tendons. Hyenas work tirelessly through the night, gnawing, pulling, and dragging. Her laughter can be heard far away across the plain. Beneath the carcass, another world awakens. Dung beetles roll their prizes into perfect spheres, burying them as quickly as possible before the competitors arrive. Maggots wriggle in the flesh. Every fragment of the elephant returns to the earth. In the morning, the scene is almost unrecognizable. Vultures peck at remains in the rising sun. The hyenas have left, their stomachs full, and their tracks return to the shadows. The scent lingers. In the distance, the matriarch's herd passes by. They can smell it. The calves trumpet softly, restlessly. But the matriarch does not stop. She rumbles softly. They don't stay here. The journey becomes more difficult every day. Watering holes are reduced to muddy pits. The air shimmers with the heat. Elephants dig through dry riverbeds with their trunks, finding moisture deep in the sand. The calves watch and learn. When night falls, the herd rests in a clearing surrounded by acacia trees. The matriarch stands while others lie down, her black silhouette against the starry sky. She listens intently for the lions, the hyenas, anything that might threaten the cubs. But few predators dare approach such a large pride. The smell of elephants is enough to deter even the most daring hunters. The days go by. The earth begins to change. The mopans disperse, replaced by grass and open sky. The wind brings a new scent, salt and distant rain. The Magadigadi salt flats stretch beyond. Once an ancient lake larger than Switzerland, it is now a vast white basin stretching as far as the eye can see. During the dry months, there is no life. But when the rains return, it becomes a place of rebirth. The first storms are looming on the horizon. Lightning flashes across the sky, followed by the dull roar of thunder. The elephants quicken their pace. Their trunks are raised, savoring the heavy air. The calves trumpet. Then finally the rain comes. It starts with a single drop, then thousands hitting the earth. The elephants raise their trunks, letting the water wash over them. They rumble with joy. The matriarch remains motionless, the rain streaming down her face, her eyes half closed. She has bravely led them once again. The waves transform overnight. What was empty salt becomes a mirror of water and sky. Flamingos descend in great pink flocks. Zebras and wildebeests join the migration, splashing their hooves in the new pools. Frogs emerge from the cracked earth, filling the night with their songs. The world that had seemed desolate suddenly comes alive. Elephants drink deeply. Their trunks curve and pour the cold water into their mouths. The calves splash and roll, trumpeting with joy. For now, the journey is over. The herd spreads across the flooded plain, grazing on fresh shoots and tugging at branches. The matriarch stands on a hill, watching the storm clouds move away to the east. When the delta rises again, when the Okavango floods return, they will begin the long march back through dust and thorns. Meanwhile, the Kalahari is awakening. For months it has remained silent under a blanket of dust and glare. The air shines, the ground is cracked with thirst. But now the rains have come. Sudden, explosive, transforming the desert into a sea of green. The salt flats are full of grass. From the north, the movement begins, the great migration of the Kalahari blue wildebeest. They have traveled from the northern parts of Botswana, near the Savuti and Mababe depressions. The scent of rain permeates the plains. For hundreds of kilometers, they march in scattered columns. At the head of a herd walks an old bull. Its horns extend outward in a wide curve. His skin is marked by years of battles and seasons. He's led the herd before, and now he does so again. Behind him stretch hundreds of wildebeest, females laden with calves, clumsy but determined foals. The rains dictate where life can survive and for how long. Where the clouds have passed, overnight the grass grows, tender and sweet. But the Kalahari offers no permanence. What grows today will wither tomorrow. The wildebeest must constantly move, feeding while they can, before the desert regains its silence. The air is fresher now, laden with the scent of damp earth. Lightning still flickers on the horizon. Herds spread across the marshes, dark silhouettes against the silver-green plain. Calves fall into the world at an astonishing speed, born standing up, running in a matter of minutes. For a few precious weeks life is abundant, but abundance always attracts glances from the shadows. On a rise above the plain, a cheetah, Acinonyx jubatus, crouches in the grass. Its fur ripples in the light, blending perfectly with the golden, dry stems surrounding it. Two small cubs lie hidden behind a bush. Their fur is speckled with a faint silvery coat that hides them from danger. The mother watches over the herd. Cheetahs are the fastest land animals on Earth, capable of bursts that can reach 100 kilometers per hour, but only for seconds. Every chase must be measured, every hunt calculated. Get too far ahead and they'll tire before attacking. Too late and your target will be gone. She crouches lower, muscles tense, and her tail twitches once. The air calms. Then she runs. The wildebeest disperse. The calf runs, kicking up clumps of mud with its small hooves. But the cheetah approaches, its strides long and effortless. The male turns, snorting, but can't intervene in time. Dust rises. A scream cuts through the air, and silence follows. The hunt is over in seconds. The cheetah drags the cub to safety. It makes a soft, twittering sound that carries on the wind. The cubs emerge from their hiding place. They eat quickly, nervously. Every moment on the kill is a risk. The vultures are already circling overhead. White-backed and big-eared, they spiral upward with each passing minute. In the distance, a jackal trots toward the scene. The cheetah eats quickly, tearing into the tender meat. Within an hour, it will abandon what's left and disappear into the grass. It can't defend its prey from stronger scavengers. The wildebeest herd regroups on the plain. The calves bleat softly, the mothers nudge them closer, and the male guides them. As the days pass, the grass grows longer. The marshes become lush, dotted with ephemeral pools that reflect the changing sky. The wildebeest roll in the mud, protecting their skin from biting flies. The birds follow in their wake. Cattle, egrets, drongos, fork-tail rollers, all trapped insects are disturbed by its hooves. For the cheetah and her cubs, this is the season of plenty. She hunts every other day, choosing small or weak prey. Each successful kill gives her cubs another chance to grow stronger. They practice stalking each other as a game. The mother watches, tired but vigilant. She knows that the abundance will not last. To the west, the rains begin to ease. The puddles shrink, the grass turns pale, and the first dust devils twist on the horizon. The wildebeest also sense the change. Their calls grow more intense, restless. The herds tighten their formation. The calves are now more robust. Now they can keep up. The bull raises its head, testing the air. It's time to move again. The journey will take them back to the Boteti River, now little more than a row of muddy pools. There, crocodiles lurk. When the first pack reaches the river, they hesitate for only a few seconds before beginning their journey. The sound is deafening. Hooves clattering, water splashes, bodies colliding. Dust rises even from the damp earth. The male charges first, breaking the current for those behind. The calves stumble. The mothers push them with their flanks. From the shallow water, a crocodile shoots up, snapping its jaws around a leg. Chaos breaks out. The herd advances in panic. Some escape, others don't. When the last wildebeest appears on the other shore, silence returns. The cheetah family remains on the plains. The mother is emaciated, her ribs visible beneath her fur. The grass is drying quickly, offering little cover for hunting. She spots a herd of leaping antelope in the distance, but doesn't attempt to pursue them. Her cubs lie beside her, panting from the heat. She did what she could. Soon they will have to fend for themselves. As the dry season deepens, the Kalahari regains its austerity. The green turns grey. The salt flats become salty again, harsh and blinding in the sun. The frogs burrow into the mud. The herds move north, leaving silence and bones behind. Vultures perch on the remains of the fallen. Hyenas rummage through what remains. The wind rises. The wind blows across the emptiness, erasing the footprints, scattering the remnants of the season's bounty. By the time the next rains come, the wildebeest will return. They always do. The surviving calves will become mothers, with their own young trotting alongside. The bull, if he is still alive, will lead again. The story is repeated elsewhere as well. Katavi Plains are located deep in western Tanzania. A remote desert, rarely seen, one of the last untouched corners of Africa's interior. Most of the year, this place is green, fertile. I live with water and sound. But now, at the end of the dry season, Katavi has been transformed. The rivers that once meandered across the plain have been reduced to thin threads of muddy water. The air shimmers with heat, dust swirls over the cracked clay, and to this land of thirst comes one of Africa's most powerful migrants, the Cape buffalo, Syncerus caffa caffa. They have traveled from the distant forests and floodplains of the Katuma Basin. The great herds advance in formation, hundreds of them. Calves stumble in the dust. Old and young advance with a steady pace. Each step brings them closer to the Katuma River, now little more than a broken chain of stagnant pools. At the head of the herd walks a huge bull. His hide is covered in mud, his horns polished by years of battle. He carries the weight of leadership, protecting the pride from the lions, guiding them toward what remains of the water. He has survived droughts before, but the land feels different now. Every day without rain makes every decision more dangerous. Buffalo can smell the river long before they see it. The scent of rot, algae, and decay carries on the wind. Around the pools, the ground softens beneath their hooves, dark and slick with moisture. The first animals approach cautiously, snorting, feeling their way through the mud. Waves spread across the surface. Just below that surface lies a group of Nile crocodiles, buried in the cold mud, conserving energy. For months, they have fed on fish, drowned antelope, and the unlucky few who strayed too close. Now, with the dry season intensifying, food is arriving in abundance. The first buffalo steps forward and lowers its head to drink. The bull continues. The pack gathers and crowds the edge of the pool. For a few moments, there is stillness. Then the surface explodes. A crocodile rises like a whirlwind of mud and foam. The buffalo bellows, writhing, thrashing, dragging itself under the weight that knocks it down. The herd scatters, hooves pounding and kicking up dust. The bull reacts instantly, charging into the commotion, horns lowered and fury unleashed. It attacks, crossing the water and catching the crocodile's flank. The reptile releases its grip and disappears back into the brown depths. The herd regroups, now cautious, momentarily forgetting their thirst. Around them, egrets peck at the churned mud, catching insects disturbed by the chaos. Above, vultures circle lazily. As the sun sets, the plains change again. The buffalo sit uncomfortably in the open air, reluctant to stray far from the water. The wounded lie apart. The heat fades, and with it comes a different kind of danger, the night. From the distance comes a sound. At first I faint, then closer. A low, prolonged cry, then another and another one. It is the song of the spotted hyena, crocuta crocuta, the scavengers of Africa's wild heart. But here in Katavi, hyenas are more than scavengers. They're hunters. A clan moves in the gloom. 15 men, led by a scarred matriarch. They have been following the herd for hours. An adult bull is almost impossible to bring down, but a calf, a wounded straggler, or one stuck in the mud. That's an opportunity. They approach the puddles. The lead hyena stops, ears pricked. The scent of blood is intense. In the distance, the herd moves restlessly. The hyenas disperse. The first attack comes suddenly. A calf has strayed too far, lured by a shallow pool away from the herd. The matriarch steps forward, charging out of the darkness. The air erupts with noise, bellows, grunts, splashes. The herd runs toward the sound, with the bull leading the way. The hyenas scatter and retreat just as quickly, but not empty-handed. The calf's cries fade away and are replaced by the crunching of bones. The herd gathers, restless. The bull bobs its head, nostrils flaring. It knows the hyenas will return. Predators are patient. They test the boundaries, exploring, retreating, waiting for weakness. During the night, they circle. The buffalo sleeps standing up, ears twitching, muscles tense. Every few minutes, one raises his head. At dawn, the air is permeated with a strong smell of decomposition. Near the shore, the calf's carcass lies stripped to the bone. Hyena tracks crisscross the mud, now joining those of vultures. They descend in waves, tearing at what remains. The crocodile briefly emerges, opens its jaws, and drags the last remains into the depths. The buffaloes watch from a distance. The hyenas take refuge in the shade of the tamarind trees, their bellies swollen. The male guides his herd once more, away from the stench of what they could not protect. At dawn, the heat returns with devastating force. The last puddles of the Katuma are visibly shrinking hour by hour. Fish die by the hundreds. Hippos huddle together, their skin cracked and bleeding from the sun. Buffaloes dig the ground with their hooves. But far to the west, thunder rolls over the Mahale Mountains. A shift in the wind brings the scent of rain. The bull raises his head, nostrils flared, sensing salvation. He bellows, a deep, resonant cry that spreads through the herd. The buffalo turn in unison and their pace quickens. Behind them, the crocodile remains buried in the mud, its body half buried, waiting for the floods to return. Vultures perch on acacia branches, their wings outstretched in the heat. Hyenas sleep in the shade, only the flies remain active. Then finally the sky breaks. A drop falls, then another. Within minutes, rain lashes the plains in torrents. Dust turns into mud. Water flows through dry channels, reconnecting the broken chain of pools. The crocodile raises its head, blinking and opening its eyes to the reborn world. Frogs sing from hidden pools. Birds return in flocks. Herons, egrets, storks, all attracted by the sudden abundance of life. The buffalo stops and drinks deeply. The calves splash in the shallow water, chasing each other. The bull stands back, his flanks flapping, his coat glistening in the rain. For a moment, Katavi breathes again. But this peace will not last. In a few months, the river will shrink again. The rains will continue on their way, leaving behind cracked earth and memory. Meanwhile, the coastal plains of eastern Kenya lie under a scorching sun. From the banks of the Tana River to the arid scrublands of Ishakbini and Arawale, the earth ripples with the heat. Acacia trees stand skeletal against a pale horizon. This is the last refuge of the rarest antelope in the world, the Hirola Beatragus hunter. They once ranged across the Horn of Africa, from Somalia to northern Kenya. Today, only a few hundred remain. It is already late in the dry season. The rivers have been reduced to ribbons of mud. The grass, once green, now crunches underfoot. For months, herds have followed faint paths carved by generations, moving from the Tana floodplain eastwards to the dwindling plains of Ijara and the grassy glades of Boni. These movements are not large migrations like those in the Serengeti. At the heart of a small herd walks a female Hirola and her fawn. She is slender and has a penetrating gaze, her pale, tawny coat blending seamlessly with the earth. The white ring around her eyes gleams in the sunlight. This is what gives the species its nickname, the four-eyed antelope. The fawn trots close to her flank, still learning to balance caution and curiosity. Together, they make their way through the brittle grass and acacia thorns. Meanwhile, in the thick undergrowth of a dry ravine, a leopard, Panthera pardus. Its mottled fur blends into the dappled light. He's been following the pack for 2 days, tracking their scent through the shallow gullies that channel life toward the last watering holes. The leopard is patient, moving with fluid precision, paws soft on the dust. The leopard stops at the edge of a clearing. There is a trickle of water left here, just enough to wet their hooves. The mother tastes the air and then steps forward. Around her, the herd is drinking rapidly, looking up between gulps. The fawn lowers its head, drinking for the first time that day. In the stillness, the only sounds are the clicking of insects and the faint rustle of leaves in the wind. Then the wind changes. A whisper of scent. Musk predator. Danger. The mother freezes. The pack feels it too. Heads are raised, the ears turn, the eyes scan the thicket, but the leopard is already in position. It crouches beneath a tangle of thorns, its body like a coiled spring, waiting for the smallest, the slowest, the one who takes one step too far. Dusk slips across the plains like a curtain of coppery light. The fawn strays, chasing a moth that flutters just out of reach. The leopard's tail moves once, then it explodes from its deck. The attack ends almost before it begins. The mother turns, her hooves thumping in the dust, but it's too late. The leopard's jaws close on the fawn's throat, ending the fight in an instant. The Hirola scatter into the darkness, their slender figures disappearing into the thorny savannah. The leopard drags its prey under an acacia bush, away from the open plain. Around him, the night comes alive. Cicadas, singular crickets chirp. The cat eats quickly, tearing meat from bone, pausing between bites to listen for the sound of approaching hyenas. He won't stay long. At midnight, the scavengers arrive. First, a pair of black-backed jackals appear. They circle the leopard's prey, moaning softly, testing its patience. The cat growls, low, guttural, a sound that ripples through the silence. The jackals retreat to wait. Farther away, a serval lurks in the grass, attracted by the scent. Hirola mother watches from a distance. He doesn't return to the clearing. At dawn, he will continue on with the pack, his loss absorbed by the incessant need to survive. The death of one means the survival of the pack. Dawn breaks over the coastal scrub, the sun rising through a cloud of dust. The air is cool for a few fleeting minutes before the heat takes over again. The birds move, purple chest curls, white-browed weaver sparrow, hornbills. Everyone calls from the trees. The leopard, its belly full, retreats to the shade of a comifera thicket. It lies down, hidden, its body blending into the shadow. For the Hirola, the journey continues. The pack now heads east, away from the watering hole and its dangers. They continue on towards the shallow waters of the Tana Delta. The grass here is sparse but green. The herd must reach the next pasture before the heat becomes unbearable. They travel mainly at dawn and dusk. The midday sun is too strong and the ground too hot to cross. As the weeks pass, the colony grows with new arrivals, but abundance comes with its own risks. Competition increases, tempers flare. At dawn, Fights break out between bats fighting for a place to roost, their sharp teeth flashing and their cries echoing like distant thunder. And then the storms come. The rainy season lashes the land, turning dry riverbeds into torrents. Lightning flashes over the forests, and the wind tears through the treetops. Branches snap, causing hundreds of bats roosting there to collapse into the floodwaters. The colony must move back to the south, towards higher ground. For some, the journey is too long and tiring. Their bodies fall along the path. The survivors move on. They follow the fruit trees through the Luangwa Valley and continue toward the coastal forests of Mozambique. They must endure storms, predators, and exhaustion. Yet the migration continues, year after year, generation after generation. In a small clearing, a mother bat hangs from a low branch, cradling her cub under her wing. The calf clings to her breast, eyes closed, trusting her completely. At night, she carries it in her arms in mid-flight, nursing between feedings, never landing on the ground for hours. Her kind is born in the air. Only the strongest will survive the season. The colony moves eastwards. Over the floodplains, herds of elephants and buffaloes soar. Over the forests, they follow the scent of baobab fruit. Along the way, they are joined by others, smaller fruit bats from the coast and pale epauletted bats from the savannah. The crowned eagle also moves with the season. In the rolling hills of northern Mozambique, a new roost stands. The bats have arrived exhausted, clinging to trees, still dripping from recent rains. Their defenses are lowered now. Their flights are shorter. The eagle waits for nightfall. The sky burns orange as bats swoop about. The first takes flight, flapping its wings against the humid air. Suddenly the sky fills again. The eagle swoops down. It strikes with precision, grabbing a bat and carrying it skyward while the others scatter in panic. Below, a second eagle squawks. Its mate. They hunt together. Not all hunts are successful. Some hits miss. Some prey evade capture. Bats are agile. As the weeks pass, the storms subside. The rains ease, leaving the air thick and still. Fruit becomes scarce again. The trees are stripped of their bounty. The bats begin their return north. They follow the rivers, the Luangwa, the Chambeshi, and the Congo. Some will never return. Still, enough people survive. In the middle of the year, the sky above Kasanka falls silent. The trees are bare again, their branches no longer burdened by millions of bodies. But below, life flourishes. Shoots sprout from the damp earth, each born from a seed the travelers had dropped months before. Parrots feed on new fruits. Insects swarm. High above the plains, a lone crowned eagle circles, exploring the forest. And so the cycle continues, all over the savannah. From the thunder of wildebeest hooves in the Kalahari to the rustle of bat wings over Zambia, every journey is a connecting thread in nature's grand design. The elephant herd moves at dawn in the glare of the heat. The cob, white-eared, stands in the fog. Every life, hunter or hunted, is united here. The rains will return, the grass will grow. And once again, across the endless wilderness of Africa, the great migrations will begin again.